Hello? Okay. For some reason, the thing wasn't set up, and I was like, hello, everyone, and the audio just wasn't working. Hope everyone's doing well. I see the Zoomers have finally found my channel, so hello. Or I guess it's Jet Alpha now. All this tongue, Sahur, and brain rot, whatever. It's very interesting. And, yeah, so it's been a long time. There's been a very large chain of unfortunate events that have caused me to not be able to work on the channel for a while. Hi, Term, good to see you. But we're here now. Oh, yeah, you can. Surely you can. Yeah, okay, I think you guys are actually listening. I don't know, I'll double check on my phone here. Unfortunate events that have yeah, a little troll. Okay, well, let's check it out here. You need to speak louder. Well, maybe. I don't know. I'll move in a little closer to the microphone. Yeah, Zoomers have started to talk about how Gen Alpha can't read. It's really interesting. Anyway, so we're talking about Lux Germaniae. I think I always put it down A, but it's A. I don't really get that. Anyway, the point is that we're making a lower grave out of this, and the divergence. Let's see if we can find a map of the world here. The point of divergence is that Austria beats Prussia in the Brothers' War, and then beats France, and then unites Germany, and then expels the Hollenzollern, or however you pronounce it. I don't sound sick anymore. That's good. Well, I still do have a little bit of something in there, but I'm not nearly as bad as my stream last week, for sure. But as you can see, they didn't give up their lands here. They have Galicia Lodomeria. They have Hungary. This is supposed to be like a Germanized area. We're not going to have that. Also have this Dalmatia, but it's like Croatia. I don't really get it. But also Scandinavia united. But here's the big elephant in the room, and let me see if I can find it. Yeah, so this is Israel. So the idea of this was because there's a significant Ashkenazi population in Poland at the time. Let's, instead of making a Polish state that would have claims on our Galicia Lodomeria, Poznan, Danzig, let's just give it to the Jews. We're not doing this. This is ridiculous. Like, just not happening. No Polish intifada, so we'll just be getting rid of that. But this is how big the faction was supposed to be. Interestingly enough, World War I, they beat Britain, France, and Russia with the help of, Ashkenazi Poland. We're just not doing that. With the help of Scandinavia. So it's kind of like, I don't know, it kind of reeks of like people who really like Germanic people and then just beating everyone. I don't know. We're not going to be taking that approach though. Making a Victoria 3, no. Just because like I don't want to have to learn an entire thing, and I don't really enjoy Victoria 3 that much, and I probably would enjoy it more if I had a good gaming computer. Like I could play it on here, but then it would have to be like a work related thing, and I don't really want to do that. But this is a idea behind it. It's you could give minorities rights, or you could not. The idea clearly here was with there'd be a Prussian uprising, right? I'm sure that some developers would be able to come in and give a little extra context, but you can see here there's two different kinds of no-nos here, and then nationalists, probably all Republican in nature. And yeah, so there's been a lot of people who've been, especially one, let me find his Discord name. I think it's a he. Sorry if I misgendered you, but Eternium Boy has been sending me a lot of stuff, and I'll be taking a look at what they provided. It's more going to be things that maybe show up in the video, but for the scope of this, I wanted to talk to you guys about what I have planned here. A bunch of little things. So here's the thing, though. There's so much to this situation that I really don't think that we should be taking most of any of it. Which is kind of like radical to say. Like this is interesting. We can keep this. The socialist revolution here. The Kingdom of Two Sicilies makes sense. Old Hapsburg dominion over Italy, the way that they want it. Big Vienna Accords, that would be reasonable. We'll do that. I don't know how they got British Columbia, or I guess in this case it would be like, what would it be called? I guess it would still be called Columbia, just not British Columbia. I don't know how they got that, but it's not terrible. Like, it's not the worst thing they could have done. Oh, another thing that's really interesting. You can't really tell because of how pixelated it is, but they posted this teaser on their Discord. Apparently this is Banat Focus Tree, which is insane. Term, I think the reason why... oh, did I get rid of it already? Yeah, I did. I think the reason why the two Sicilies got so much colonial land is because they took it off the French. American Columbia, East Alaska. Does Poland still exist in the game? No. And they technically won't really be. Yes, Huey Long. They did the Huey Long Dong. Okay, well, and then this is a, I don't have time to look into this, really. It's just like, look, it's China. Anyway, let's look at this. So, this is really early stages. Can I show Africa again? Let me see if I can find Africa. Here's the teaser for the new year. So this is what they had for Africa. This is a German colony or like company that's like taking over Egypt and I guess taking over the Suez so they can keep the Suez. They can keep their empire. Apparently this is the Spanish monarchy in exile. It used to be that France owned this and then they made it just Algeria, and then it seems like they're making a lot of changes. So I talk a lot about this in my videos, but I need to probably make a standalone. Hold on, I just need to do something. Just trying to get this last little bit of snot out of my system here. I'll do my best not to sound gross. But I think that the most likely outcome for all Hearts of Iron 4 mods and the way that they die is that they don't have a solid foundation, and then somebody comes in, offers an idea, it's rejected, the person leaves, a new person comes in and takes over, changes it. That somehow is a problem, they leave. And it's like a revolving door until it doesn't work out anymore, right? So, yeah, Real Inferno, I will answer that in a minute, I think. But if you look at the way that this sphere of influence between all these different client states and viceroyalties of Germany in the Vienna Accords here, and then you look at what I've put together, this isn't even, this is a PNG. Hold on, you guys. I opened it up in PNG instead of a Photoshop. Classic mistake. Give it a minute. What's happening in India? No worries about the English. That was a perfectly valid sentence, so you're good. I think that there was a teaser for India. I don't know if I downloaded it, but I remember there being like a new Mughal empire. Yeah, see here. So there's a new Mughal empire. I think this is a princely federation. This is a separatist Bengal, and this is like a thing. I don't really know what's happening here. It is interesting. We might keep it, but what program is that? This is Photoshop. So if you look here, it's a lot different than what I initially shown, right? Like the way that I have this lore working out is that in the early years, and I don't think I have this mapped out. This is definitely not. I guess it is 1914 actually. So I already did a lot of work on this. I totally forgot. I'm like revisiting this after a long period of time. So what I have going on here is that the Austrians win the Prussian War because they make an alliance with France. France had historically had ambitions towards the Rhine and wanted to keep the Rhine for themselves because they were imperial fantasy guys, right? So Austria's scared of Prussia. Prussia has the Rhineland. They make a deal. You get the Rhineland, but not as an annexed area, but as a viceroyalty. So it's still a member of the German Confederation, but you have your say and your imperial ambitions satisfied. Napoleon III goes, okay. So then Prussia is humiliated. It's still a part of the German Confederation. Doesn't try to unify anymore. It's just Austria. Austria has no incentive to unify the Germans in the ways that the Prussians did because of their multicultural empire, as well as their like conservative views against nationalism. So they keep it this way for now. They then go up to the Italians who are trying to unify. France and Austria decide to divide their influence between each other. I believe, okay, so here, so this is the lands that would be under Austrian influence because these were like Austrian Hapsburg kingdoms over here, and then the two Sicilies. And France gets all this Piedmont stuff annexed because they're the empire, and gets a protectorate over the Papal States and Sardinia. But as soon as, would Austria not want to take up their old cities and claim? I thought about that, and I considered that, and I think that it would make sense. But I also think that it would be too much pressure to be putting on them, given how Pyrrhic the victory would be. If it was a full-on Austrian destruction of Prussia, like the initial lore had suggested, yeah, I would actually go 100% they should be taking this. But the way that the borders end up, and I'll show you, it actually makes sense for them to keep Silesia. Anyway, so France and Austria divide up influence in Germany, divide up influence in Italy. Now they are incompatible. He still wants to keep going. He probably wants to take over the Switzerland. He probably wants to annex the Rhine. So eventually, Austria and France, because they annexed Piedmont in our history as the Napoleons. The Napoleonites did that. So that's why. It maybe not. Maybe they're just a client state. At least they'd annex the French-speaking territories in like Aosta here. Yeah. Yeah, Inferno's right. The French really wanted that land, so they would keep it. Anyway, so the World War I starts when these people start to not get friendly. No Congress of Vienna, no Berlin Conference means that anybody who wants to take land in Africa doesn't have a means of peacefully resolving disputes. There's the Fashoda incident that happened between Britain and France that deteriorated their relations. But I believe that the Council of Berlin had made sure that it was resolved peacefully, which then led them to being allies. But without a Congress like that, Britain and France become enemies. Who's now a recent enemy of France? Austria. Britain and Austria ally. Then France, because of like a Franz Ferdinand style thing, I don't know who would be shot. I don't know if it would be the emperor himself or a relative, would be shot in the Rhineland, which would then cause France to demand the annexation of the Rhineland, which would then be a violation of the sovereignty of the Rhinish and the German Confederation. So Austria gets at war with France, calls in Britain, Belgium gets occupied by the French, and then this part of the war is happening. France would have already made an alliance with Russia. Russia starts to go in on Austria. Isn't this the perfect opportunity for Prussia to start trying to make their own claim for Germany? No, because France wants all of this. They're not going to give it back to Prussia. If Prussia does take a little bit of land, it'll be like this. Maybe a North German Confederation here. Yes, this is World War I. Maybe a North German Confederation could happen here, maybe. But then the rest of it would just be divided. France and Russia would dominate. They'd take all this stuff, and what would Prussia have? Nothing. But Austria goes up to Prussia and is like, hey, you're a member of the German Confederation. You should join us in our war defending German sovereignty. You can split Poland the way that we did back before the Russians strong-armed us into conceding this territory. But not only that, why don't you just take all the Baltic? The Teutons did all this. You can do that too. You take all that, you take Poland, and we will be allies. Okay, so the entirety of the German Confederation is now fighting several different major European powers. This eventually, after they win, I'm not even going to try to detail every thing. We don't have time for that. They win, right? The German Confederation then is like, hey, you know what? Maybe it isn't so bad being a unified country. Let's take what we have and make it into a constitution that creates a unified Germany. So that's why we have these borders. This is a big confederation of a lot of little small German cities and states that aren't directly ruled by the Habsburgs. This is Hanover because Hanover exists. This is I forget. I think it's Bremen, and then Holstein and Schleswig, right? Saxony too. Why not? So all of these little states exist on their own as little things here. So Prussia has Poland, a little bit of Lithuania to connect up to their Baltic territories here. The rest of the Lithuania is given to a Belarus client state, and all the stuff that isn't this is given to a Ukrainian Poland state. Hanover was a British personal union, so I was considering having something like that involved here. But I would rather it be that Germany's united. But there's an option, right? So I'll leave it here for people to consider. But after Germany's unified in a proper way like this, well, what about the Hungarian and Polish lands? Well, Poland might not have Warsaw. I think Prussia has Warsaw in this coalition. I think. Hold on. Yeah, I did see that possible history video about that. So this is I actually had this idea before that video, but I saw it and it was pretty good. Hold on, I'm gonna blow my nose again. Excuse me. So Austria has lands that aren't German, that are crown lands, that are predominantly other cultures. They have the Lombardy Venice, they have Hungary, and they have Galicia Lodomeria, who now owns a little bit of Congress Poland. They go, look, you are all still a part of my crown lands as the Kaiser of Germany, but you are now the viceroyalty of Poland, the viceroyalty of Hungary, and the viceroyalty of Lombardy Venice. Okay, great. So this is the legal setup. And this is how big Germany is. And they have these allies. They might still be allies with Britain, maybe not. France, I don't know what ideology they should be, but they should be some sort of radical one. Russia, the same sort of thing. Scandinavia probably shouldn't be unified like it is in the start date. Ottomans either do participate or don't and manage to stay whole. So that's interesting. Don't know what's happening with the Balkans yet. That's something we'll have to talk about. Yes, Season 2 Project Stress, I promise I am working on it. It's just really difficult because I'm working with HOI4 modders to try to make the visuals of it really good, but then it's like a game too, and then people are debating whether or not it should be something, and I promise I'm working on it. Anyway, so what are we going to do here, right? There's a lot to do. Well, instead of trying to focus on the whole world, I'm going to be focusing specifically on the core thing that would make gameplay interesting, and that is a brutal civil war. And I don't know if I have a notes section. Oh, here's the German Confederation borders before they lost, by the way. So, yeah. What do we got here? Let's go here. It's making notes. Yeah, thank you, Inferno. Okay. This is my usual note color. So, this entire thing should be having a huge civil war. There's no way around it. So, interesting, Jabal. So, there's going to be a civil war. And I'll just detail out the idea. And this is something that I took directly from AOTR2, but I don't feel too bad about it because, one, I talked to Jubs about it, and two, it was my idea initially. So I'm just reusing the idea I had before, right? So Franz Ferdinand got shot, and then he didn't have a kid because his kid died, I think, before then. No. Franz Ferdinand had a kid who was just some guy, I forget, who had two kids. One of them was a male, one of them was a female. This guy unalived himself when he couldn't marry his mistress. So if this person was, Franz Ferdinand was Kaiser, didn't get shot, who then passed it on to this guy, if this guy even exists, if it's just like this, I don't know, then the successor would be this female. Okay, whatever, female, who cares, right? It's starting to get to the modern times. Maybe they won't care. But here's the problem. This female is socialist. Oh my God. The horror. A female socialist as a monarch of the Hapsburg Empire. What the heck? Like, this is, I can't remember her exact, I think it's Elizabeth Marie von Habsburg. Let me see. Archduchess Elizabeth Marie of Austria. I'm just going to quickly copy her picture here. This is a little weird. Okay, it's very weird. It's because of the way that we do our setup here. I don't want it to be there. So this person's a socialist. She had a she wanted to like educate her kids to be like workers and not aristocrats. So like there's a lot of reasons why she's a socialist, right? Like, this is what's going to happen. A socialist is going to come to power in here. And she would be actively vocal in her disdain for this system. She'd be like, okay, why are we like this? Why don't we just eventually dissolve these viceroyalties, give liberties to these people, reorganize the Polish partition, and make a like proto-European Union, phase out the monarchy? Is probably what she would do. Like a revolution from above, right? But that would be like completely unacceptable, and people would try to look for they'd look for an alternative, and they would look for these alternatives in branch dynasties that had eventually led the Habsburgs in our timeline, like this lovely little guy, Charles I of Austria. So there'd be two different claimants to this entire empire here. One would be somebody who wants to take it down. Another person would be a rival claimant that the aristocracy and other nationalists would rally behind in order to keep the empire unified. This would also then play into the fact that there are other people exist than monarchs. There'd be a bunch of workers who would be here who'd be upset. Maybe France is communist and they are like, I want to be full communist, but maybe she's like, don't go full communist. Let's do social democracy instead. Don't become too radical, guys. If you work with me, I'll make it nice. They're like, no, I don't believe you. They probably have a civil war revolution, a communist revolution here. Charles is probably either going to succeed in a coup against Marie and then rule the Austrian lands directly, or instead of trying to go directly for Vienna, he goes for a viceroyalty. Because these viceroyalties all exist here, we can go something like this, where I've already explained this, so I can just go to it. So if this is Elizabeth Marie and this is a Charles realm, Charles is trying to take over Maria's realm. These make sense. Charles, if he had to pick any of the viceroyalties to coup, it would be this one, because this is way too unstable. These people are communist probably. They're probably going to go in on here and they'll have a fight, and everyone will get involved. It'll be a big mess. This wouldn't make sense because they would have just a revolt, period. The Polish people here would probably, if there were monarchy people who were in favor of anybody, it would be Marie, because Marie is like, they need more land to actually be called Poland. This is a ridiculous Poland. Hi, random yapper. So they'd want this, but they wouldn't get it if Marie didn't get in charge. So they'd be pro-Marie, but there'd be also like completely like nationalists, right? But the nationalists might actually be in Poland itself, like in this area of Poland. So nationalists would be here, separatists, complete separatists. Prussia itself would be under the Hohenzollerns. So the Hollenzollern would probably be actually pro-Charles, if anything. No, they'd be pro-Charles. They'd be buddies. They'd be buddies. They're like, hey, let's get rid of this revolutionary together. But then there would be socialist revolutionaries against Prussia, right? Maybe not. Maybe there'd be more nationalists, like in the Teutonic areas or these areas over here. They'd be like nationalists for Prussia, or maybe German nationalists of a certain creed. Then you'd have the Estonians and the Latvians and the Lithuanians, all separatists, because there's nationalists here. And when I say nationalists are for Germany, but S is separatist for like separating from Germany. So Riga would probably be nationalist. These places would be separatists. Yes, I am ill, thank you. And then there's this. I'm going to quickly go over the rest before I talk about how like the gameplay would probably work. But here we have the big situation here. So if France is communist, do I have a C here? Yeah, so if France is communist, it would actually make sense for the Rhine to have communist sympathies too. It could be that this entire border Rhine region is its own tag that France goes to war with, and if they win, then they get to take this over, reorganize the area so that this is a communist republic here, this is annexed into France, this is annexed into France, maybe Belgium gets involved, this is annexed into France, and then we don't know what's happening here yet, maybe they take over this as well. And then in the event that a civil war completes here, or if they go further than the Rhine, then there could be like a Kaiserreich, China sort of, everybody stop and let's unite against the common threat, right? Maybe that could be interesting. Then it's like nothing changes, like nothing ever happens. Everything goes back to the way it did before with the terrible constitution. But then there's all these areas here. There's Bavaria, which I don't know what Bavaria is going to do. There's all these little places. I don't know what they're going to do exactly. But if we start to look at the notes, I'm going to pull up my notes here. Just give me a minute. I also need to breathe. I need to breathe and blow my nose and drink and all that stuff. So just give me a minute. I'll read chat if you guys, after you process this for a little bit. What do you mean by German regionalists? Okay, what government is Ukraine? I'm not sure what the government in Ukraine would be. I know that in the original it was Bandera, the nationalist. But it could be something else. It could be, hi Paulina. There is a Hapsburg claimant to Ukraine. So it could actually be like a Hapsburg monarchy here. A lot. You missed a lot. Sorry, I can't really begin to explain it. Maybe you'll understand it as we go. It's just that this big Germany, which looks like this legally, but in reality it's like this, would be having a big civil war after a succession crisis happens where a socialist woman is the empress of Germany and people don't like that, so they put in Karl. It reminds you of AOTR because this exact scenario between these two is what's happening, right? Like this is going to happen in AOTR Germany as well. So shout out to AOTR. But regionalist. So you think that it would be interesting to have like a Bavarian separatist? Like it might make sense to have a Bavarian tag, but then it would need to have like a civil war, right? And the elephant in the room is that there's going to be the nationalists are not just going to be wholesome nationalists. They're going to likely be national, you know what, right? No, no. But that is actually going to have to happen. It's the time period. It's all that. But the interesting thing about National Socialism in this timeline is that Mustache Man would be in Austria, and Austria would be ruling Germany. So he might actually be like somebody who wants the status quo. He could even be like he could be the vice. No, he wouldn't be. I was about to say he would be the viceroy to, or the prime minister Charles. I don't think that would happen. I think that he might just be a Republican, but he'd be like a revolutionary. Yeah, so hold on. The original idea I had is that he would actually be not a national S, but a national liberal. It would be like a new ideology, and they would romanticize the failed 1848 revolution, claiming that if the 1848 revolution had happened properly, then these constitutional problems that were causing economic downturn or whatever wouldn't have happened. So they want to have a revolution, and it would likely be in Frankfurt or Nuremberg area here. So the National Liberals would be a claimant, right? I'm going to circle anybody who would be like a national claimant to Germany. The Maria ones would be a little bit of a caveat, because in the event that she does actually do a revolution from above, it won't be a unified empire. But there could be a path where she's actually there could be a path where she's actually a Kaiserin in the way that she was supposed to be. Yeah, so these are all the national claimants. National liberals would rise up here. It would be basically the same rhetoric as our timeline, but a lot less about socialism, maybe. Because like I don't need to explain how the Nazis weren't socialists, but they thought that they were, and people thought that they were at the time. So it's what they say. It'd be more liberal, but it wouldn't actually be liberal, just the same way the National Socialists weren't really socialist, right? But it's worth noting that there would be National Socialists over here, right? So then there could be a situation where the way I see that this civil war happens is that it's divided into 3 regions. And I'm going to change the color and maybe even make a new note here. It would be 3 regions that the civil war would partake in. So there's the Polish and Prussian lands here. And the reason why it's like bleeding over into 2 different tags is because the way that this resolved, there should be another civil war conflict here with the Marie people versus like maybe another flavor of Polish separatists here that fight each other, and then this separatist Poland here, if it's defeated by Prussia, then this Poland fights Prussia, right? But if this separatist Poland beats Prussia, then in fact we might even extend this barrier out a little bit. Maybe we'll have these people somehow get involved up here too, where they invade the Prussians, so that there's like sorry, I'm sick, and or at least I'm getting better. Some other national claimant here, and my thoughts aren't fully fleshed out, and some of the reasons why I want to talk to you guys about what we could do here. But they could invade Prussia so that they could reorganize the territory for like German stuff, and then this is Polish or whatever. So then if they beat them and either Marie or the communists here win, then those 2 Polands will fight. And then what's going to happen with these guys? Are they going to go into the Polands here? Like, this is like just an entire region that everything needs to be sorted out. The separatists would work together against these guys. Prussia would try to like reform itself. Maybe they'd even take national claimancy after they completely consolidate the realm and Polands. And then, or make a deal with Charles and be like, look, we'll give you back this land. Let's reconsolidate Germany together. But we're at a leading position or something. There's a lot of things that could happen here. But the second region will be over here. Just the crown lands of the Austrians besides Poland. And it's Marie versus Charles versus separatists. And keep in mind, every time that we mention a separatist, hold on. Every time that we mention a separatist, that doesn't actually mean that it would be just like a nationalist separatist. It could be a communist separatist. And I think that would definitely be the case in Hungary. So in Hungary, there was a communist revolution in 19 whatever that got put down. So hold on, this is Charles. So this is communist. CM. Wait, CM and that's. I'm just gonna make it an S for social. No, it's separate. Ugh. I'll make it a sickle instead. Look at how clever I am. So this is Charles. We'll put a little king on him. Communist separatists in Hungary too. And then Marie could be working with the communists a little bit, but then radicals take over and then they fight and then whatever. Or like, I don't think Marie would actually work with the communists. I'm for Marxists, but we have Marie, right? Anyway, the communists and Marie might like collaborate a little bit, but they would not end up being able to work together in the end, because Marie would be adamant on this idea of revolution from above and going down and fixing it so that it's not a big revolution of everything, and that would go against the communists, like trying to completely revolutionize the world. A little bit, yeah. The National Liberals and National Socialists would be anti-everybody and just fight each other. But the interesting thing is that if the National Liberals win in what remains of these small crown territories here, because this is another region, right? And in fact, we could even call this region like Rhine France, right? Because France would be directly involved in the way that everything would turn out here, because they'd be invading to liberate workers and reclaim their natural sphere of influence. Balkan, how do I know who's this guy? Yeah, that guy, I think, the Hungarian Communist Revolutionary. I think it's the same guy. Yeah, I almost announced it as a lower grave in the Discord, so I get that. It might be even worth putting down that Italy would be involved in the Austrian collapse, because this territory might be Marie aligned, and then the communists here invade here, and then they have to fight. And then, yeah, so basically, it's hard to tell with this green. I kind of regret this green. Hold on. Let's make this green a darker green. Oh, that's an ugly green, though. There's a lot of hearts happening. I appreciate all the love. Okay, that's good enough. So there's 3 different regions to this civil war. There's the northeast, the southeast, and the west. The west is the French communists interacting with the aristocracy and national liberals trying their own revolution under Mustache Man himself. The northeast, I don't know what's happening here yet, but Prussia would be fighting separatists, National Socialists, separatists, and if they win, then they can start working with Charles, maybe, but if Charles is already gone, then they become the new leaders of Germany. If the separatists win, the remnants of Prussia would be like very rump. It would just be these guys all together just waiting for a national leader to pop up that they can be aligned to. The socialist Polish would have to then fight Marie or the communists to get their Poland all sorted out. That's not even to say anything about what's happening with Belarus and the Ukraine. Even Ukraine, the Ukrainian state, mind you. The Ukrainian state here could then want to get in on the action and claim Galicia. And it's also to say the same thing. Maybe Romania, oops, that's Austria itself. Maybe Romania also gets involved. Maybe Serbia gets involved. This is a very large escalation, but this is exactly what people play Hearts of Iron 4 games for, right? This is how big the Civil War would be and how complicated it would be. And you have like 3 different main factions. There's the Marie Kaisers, the Charles Kaisers, the National Liberals / National Socialists, and communists and separatists that all have their own things to have to deal with each other, right? It's very, very crazy and very complicated, but there's a lot of fun that could happen here. So let's say a communist victory happens. France takes over all the Benelux. Communists survive in Hungary. Communists survive in Poland. Communists take over Italy. Then they can go in a big war against everybody. All the claimants would set aside the differences and fight, but it would probably be too late. This entire region would be communist. Huge victory for France. But then the question is, yes, Russia. What's happening with Russia? What's happening with Serbia? What's happening with Romania? What's happening with Bulgaria? What's happening with Greece? Is the Ottoman Empire going to have a civil war too? Or are they going to be fine? What's Britain going to be doing? How big is the colonial empire? All these questions need to be answered, and in many ways it would be out of the scope of a lower grade video, because this in itself is already huge, right? like making an entire mod based off of this civil war would actually be probably one of the most engaging things I could imagine in my own campaigns, right? Like, I want to play this mod when it comes out. Are you kidding me? But the problem is trying to figure out exactly how it all work out, right? What's the year? It'd be 1936. Russia freeing Poland, members of yeah, I remember that part of the that video. Made a lot of sense. In a lot of ways, that's how my mega campaign is kind of going down right now with that EU4 section, which is pretty funny actually. Let's see if I can find any comments here about ideas. This is where I want to hear your guys' thoughts for sure. So any comments at all would be really appreciated. Germany settled Tanzanian highlands. The Europeans got interrupted. The last little one. Maybe, but the difference is that that's like a Prussian Germany. Austrian Germany might act differently. I'm not too certain about that. Plate tectonics. No, I haven't. Thank you. Yeah, that France makes sense. I want to see any new ideas here. Balkan nations liberate their brothers. Yeah. So let's start mapping that out. The most obvious thing is that the Balkans would want to be involved in this whole situation. So let's get started with that. But what I'm wondering is, can I just take other ideas here? Like, not ideas. Like, do I really need to map out Austria and Serbia for the upteenth time? Could I not just get a new tab going on here? I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, I don't want to reveal any of my other projects right now, so let's see. Just give me a minute. No, I know what to open. Hold on. Maybe it has it. Come on. Why can't I open a... Where's the cloud button? Oh, what a shame. I think I need to update my Photoshop and I can't access certain files. Maybe I can though. Hold on, I'm gonna try one more time. I also just need to breathe. It's hard to breathe, man. It's because I'm looking at lexicon projects. I need to be looking at something else. Germania, VEA, Krasnodar. That's like more modern borders, isn't it? Well, at least nobody's going to be spoiled if I open up a Krasnodar thing. So I want to see if I can extract some borders from this file here, so I don't have to remake it all. This is Photoshop. So this isn't exactly accurate or whatever, and I'll just deal with it as it comes. And if these borders don't make sense to you, it's because you didn't see the, oh, this is the PNG. If these borders don't make sense to you, it's because you missed the Krasnodar videos I made, the second one. So obviously Yugoslavia would want to be bigger than this, but would Yugoslavia even exist is the thing. Would Bulgaria be big or would Bulgaria be small? I think Bulgaria would be big. I think that it makes sense given the historical trajectory that we're going with here to have Germany be big. Bulgaria be big. I never know. Like, I had all this stuff figured out. I have so many different like workflows and situations here. I want a big Bulgaria. Where can I find a big Bulgaria? It's not here. It'd be a KR. Okay, there we go. So what I do usually, the way I make maps, is I take reference from things like other QBAMs that people have made, and I credit the people who I use the maps of in my videos. I then take this as a section, and then I make a separate layer out of it. I like this Bulgaria color, so I'm going to keep it, even though it's supposed to be like Russian satellite Bulgaria. We're going to keep this Bulgaria. I'll just get rid of socialist Greece because that doesn't really make much sense for this time. Maybe we'll have Bulgaria go all the way up here too, so that Romania has nothing. Could be kind of fun. In fact, they could divide. No, they'll just make Romania as small as possible. Illyria would be a vice property. Okay, so here's the thing about Illyria. I don't think that the Habsburgs would ever go in and take Bosnia. That's kind of crazy to say, but like, why would they take Bosnia? Let's look at the history. We have a bunch of maps here of different time periods that we can look at. So this is 1914, they already took it. 1990, they already took it. 1981, they didn't. So this is the border that they had with the Ottomans. And the Ottomans and the Russians and the whatever, they were having a conflict, and then they had to like decolonize the Balkans. The Balkans were then carved up between a bunch of different people, and they would try to figure it out. But this is 1891. I guess because Austria still is not really thinking that they're going to be ruling the German Confederation yet. They don't see the point. But then again, if Austria is friends with France and France is fighting Russia in the Crimean War, Austria would fight Russia in the Crimean War. Would that impact the way that the Balkans are decolonized? I don't know. Croatia and Slavonia were under personal union with Hungary, so effing with them all risks a Hungarian rebellion. Yeah, and I think that it makes sense for the Austrians to completely just ignore that dynamic entirely and not F with the Balkans at all. Independent Bosnia, maybe. This is kind of crazy, but no, maybe it's too crazy. I was about to suggest that the Ottomans have a certain partition that they did before the other Balkan wars. It was like 1900. There's no art. Yeah, AI. I know that there wasn't a partition. I'm talking about. Okay, here. So. Credit to Marine King Prime on Map Porn, the subreddit. This is the sort of borders that the Ottomans had after the conference to make their borders a lot more stable so that there is a lot more civility in the Balkans. And you can note here that there's like a direct line here. Like they still have Macedonia. They still have this area. They still have Bosnia. I'm wondering if something like this could actually survive into 1936. Probably not, but I'll get you guys' thoughts. And I'm reading these ones now. I have someone have Russia plus Second Jacobin French Republic, member of the German Confederation, fully united or something. FP. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, they don't go into Bosnia, just having the Hungarians get angrier. But question is, though, wouldn't the Hungarians have a claim to Bosnia given the claims of Croatia and their personal union? Or would that claim have already long since passed and therefore it's not something that they would worry about? Bosnia-led Yugoslavia would go hard. I agree. Like a Muslim Yugoslavia. That's what would that even be called? Who is they do? They do have a claim, so then maybe it is actually just Hungarian instead of it being like a weird intermashing. I'm not sure. A lot to consider here, and the Balkans are a really hard thing to understand. So let's take a look here. So this is the borders here. They retained their claims on Galicia. Bosnia was under Hungarian dominion, not before Mohawks. So Hungary still claimed Galicia? Because I remember seeing a discussion on Reddit where somebody in the Victoria 3 subreddit was like, in order to avoid a problem of Hungary revolting, they should have they could make it so this becomes a vice royalty, but in exchange they get Galicia Lodomeria, and it's like, but why would they do that? If they had a claim, maybe they actually would. In this chat, we don't make sense of the Balkans. We sob violently whenever we have a chance to touch a region. Yes. The Balkan League only attacked the Ottomans because of Italy taking Libya. Oh shit! Mango coming in with the clutch. So let's make a separate folder for the Balkans fiasco. Hungary claimed it. That's crazy. You should find that. Oh hey, this is good, but this is not the right era. I was worried that it was gonna start playing copyrighted music, but we're good. Okay. Balkan fiasco. Balkans, oh god, why? So if we actually have the ability to have the Ottomans be really big, we should probably take the opportunity. I don't know, I think that it might be a little controversial given the fact that it's the Balkans. But hey, I think it could be pretty fun. And then you could just have another civil war and just make it interesting that way, right? Like, why not? We'll do that. Yeah, so I'll be Turk by 19... Hey, look, it's Turk page. There you go, perfect, right on time. As if on cue, the Turks start popping up in chat. Oh, that's crazy. Okay, so I wish I could find a map of this Ottoman Empire. Oh, here it is. But it would even potentially control Bosnia. So this is a very, very rough idea. Probably won't make it into the video, so don't freak out. Ottoman Balkans. Mashallah, brother. Yeah. As a YouTuber, you gotta pander to a certain audience, right? So I'm going full in on Turkey. It's the Turkey Gambit. 1900. This is that. I love how my solution to the Balkans is just to give it to all to Turkey. But it might not actually last. This could be something that ends up happening in 1940, so we could just transfer this map over to what we have there currently. In fact, let's just do that right now. So we have this 1936 folder. So we can just open up the 1914 border and then go here. So this could actually be the partition of the influence in the 1900s, which is crazy to consider, but it actually could be, right? Fact check by True Turkish Patriots, yeah. So then if this is the Ottoman Empire in World War I, then who are the Ottoman Empire's enemies? And are the Ottomans on the side of the Austrians? I think that it makes sense for the Ottomans to, oh my god, it's had a huge brain blast. So, you know how, I don't know if this is like real history or like a theory, but the Germans hypothetically, potentially maybe sent Lenin to Russia to cause a civil war in Russia, to cause the Entente to lose the war, because their biggest ally just had a big civil war. But then it didn't matter. The Entente still won World War I. If this similar situation happens, where France goes, let's cause a revolution in the Ottoman Empire so that the Ottoman Empire isn't a big ally of our big enemies, so that we can win the war, then you could have an unironic communist Turkey. And I know I just was pandering to the Turks, and now they're like, no, Kemal would prevent this tragic fate. Maybe. But it could be interesting, because then it could justify the entire collapse of authority in the Balkans. It could make the Middle Eastern situation more interesting. It's just a thought. But this is an idea for now, so no Italy means no Libya, means no Balkan War, means the Balkan War is stalled until later, meaning the Bulgarians would want to hold up and wait. So let's do some 1914 mapping. Let's take the 1900 reference here. Yeah, it's interesting too because this is Bulgaria and then this is Eastern Rumelia or something. It's like a buffer state, not exactly Bulgaria. So this is the Ottomans, this is the Bulgarians. So this is the Skaldagrim's unexpurgated color key, so suck. This is the color scheme that I often use. And if I don't see something I like, I just make my own color. So this is Bulgaria. That's Krasnodar. This is what we're working on. This is Bulgaria, and then let's see, do they have an Eastern Rumelia? Bulgaria, Balkans, other Balkan country. Let's just do that one. Oops, that's their China. And then go here. Hold on, I'm going to name this. There's a lot of interesting messages coming in, or at least messages that exist, and I will read them soon. I just wanted to make sure I do this. And then this is Eastern Rumelia. Maybe I'll just take this color here. I use the eyedropper tool if I can press the I key. And then I have to alt click here because of the bleed prevent. It would cause the borders not to be right. Let's see. Turkish USSR. Why are y'all hating on us now? I don't know. Sorry. It is interesting though to have a Ottoman Turkey, but then we're getting too similar to AOTR. So maybe we just don't do a communist Turkey at all. Maximilian Robespierre never a throne. That's crazy. Interesting. Some British goof just said he loved colonialism. The border between Serbia and Bulgaria. Oh yeah, interesting. It's close, isn't it? So Serbia would exist here. This is very interesting. I just think that having a complete... No, this is really hard. I don't think that Ottomans would keep this after World War I, even if they were an ally and survived. You could have it be that the Ottomans fall to like Young Turks and they're like... Or not Young Turks, what is it? They could fall to some very not so good people. Let's just put it that way. I think that it might make sense for the Ottomans to be the fascists of this timeline, actually. It could be like a mutilated victory where they won, but they like lost the Balkans. And they're like, screw this, screw everybody. Turkish, go all the way, hoorah. And that could impact, it could be like pan-Turkic, and then they could be influencing the Central Asia, right? So, if you lose Albania being a remnant of an old government, like the Ottomans in exile in Albania, that's crazy. But I'm actually a fan of this idea of the Ottomans being fascist, where they become the Mediterranean nationalist that F's with the world order when there's a sign of weakness. Yeah, exactly, right? Like the Young Turks, I never know. I don't really understand the Young Turks, so I rarely refer to them. But maybe somebody could elaborate. Do Great Turkmenia with all of Austria and Turkey uniting. It's like, hey, I know that you almost took my capital in like the 1500s, but let's unite under one big federation. And instead of you being Catholic, you convert to Islam. Yeah, that seems perfectly reasonable. Russo-Turkish War. Hell yeah, that's perfect, actually. I love that. Okay, so we're definitely going to keep this idea. But the point is that because the Ottomans hold on to this territory longer, they don't hold on to it, it falls to a civil war. Maybe they aren't actually allies with Austria. Maybe they just lose a bunch of their stuff and they are really pissed off that they managed to lose everything. Maybe their internal political instability causes them to lose basically everything, which pisses them off. So they go full fascist. So that's our idea right now. I'll put it down on notes. So press F to pay respect for the dead, in the sense that this is not a happy place to be if you're not Turkish. And even if you are, you don't get freedom of speech. So that's this idea here. And I don't know how much land they'd have here. I think that in the event... Okay, so hold on. Another big historical drop here. So after the British intervened in Egypt's policing, the Khediviate of Egypt was a joint British-Ottoman thing, but in reality it was just all British, because when the First World War happened, the British took it over and then started fighting the Ottomans through here, and then they instigated Arab revolts, and then Turkey collapsed, right? That doesn't happen here. If the British are too preoccupied fighting the French, or even are direct allies of the Ottoman Empire, they have no reason to throw it off. But if the Ottomans had a civil war due to their political instability, then they would probably just be like, okay, we're taking this now. Which would be another reason why these people are so prominent. They want to take this over for themselves in a violent attack. So they'd be directly fighting these guys. And they'd be consolidated enough to be able to do so because the Civil War would happen in the 1920s or something. So then this would be a full British colony. They would have Libya. They would go in on this way. Maybe because the French had this, they are also kind of leading the Islamic world through the fact that there's still the Caliph. So there's a lot of potential for Turkey here, actually. Why does Suez look like that? I don't know. I just put a line there so I know that who controls the Suez. Edirne is Turk. What do you do? So maybe we expand it this way. Yeah, maybe. Kind of makes sense. I did see you mention about that, Random Brett. I don't know if you said that before. The Ottomans held Macedonia for longer, it would have voted for federalist Bulgarian parties. So you're saying that all of Macedonia would become Bulgarian? Bulgaria took Eastern Rumelia in 1855. Yeah, and I think that they would still do that here. The Balkan Wars happened in the 1930s into the 1910s. Yeah, I think that the Balkan Wars would happen during the World War, and it would be an extension of the World War. But then I'd imagine that the Austrians would be too preoccupied with this stuff to deal with it. But then again, they would have a direct reason to get intervened if Serbia and Romania were getting involved. But in this case, if the borders are looking like this, Serbia would be probably too busy fighting these guys. Romania would... I don't know what Romania would be doing here. I don't think Romania really has any reason to do anything here. They would probably be fighting the Austrians. So, but also the Turkish would have no reason to fight the Romanians. So it'd just be the Serbians. And then Austria's like, yeah, whatever, fuck Serbia, I don't care. Lol. Give us Bosnia. No. Okay, well, screw you. We're not getting involved. God damn it. Romania gets partitioned after the World War I. Ottomans die. Serbia managed to take this land. Maybe Albania. Maybe Bosnia. Austria doesn't like that. But what can they do? They can ally Bulgaria to counterbalance the fact that Serbia is bigger. Greece manages to take a bunch of land. Greece is probably British aligned. The Turkish probably are cut off here just for like a little alternate border's sake. And there's a war between Greece, Bulgaria, Romania, or whatever's left of it, Serbia. Maybe it happens in 1936. Turkey takes the opportunity to either go in on the Balkans or go over here. I don't know. There's a lot to consider, and I'm about to read the comments. Let's see. I didn't hear you well. How do you know? Yeah, that's good. You should share it in the Discord, and I'll see if I can look at it later. So hold on. They only got it back in the Second Balkan War when Bulgaria has entire army elsewhere. It was majority Greek and Bulgarian before 1913. I'm saying the Ottomans held Macedonia, it would be waged stronger since most Macedonians were and supported the left-wing VMORO. What's a VMRO? Have a Roman LARPA ruled Turkey. I mean, I like the Rumen Sultanate. It may be, honestly. Like, that could actually be something. Fascist Turkey wouldn't claim Rome. Mehmed was the exception, not the rule. It's true. Yeah. Well, you can always just make it something for the player to do, but it does make sense. Austria could maybe be allied with the Slavs of the Balkans against the Ottomans in World War One, but I don't know how Russia would play into it. Yeah. It might make more sense. Oh, damn it. I don't know. I'm trying to avoid a big Balkan incursion here. It is really tough. It's a really tough part of this scenario. Because the reality is, and this is the European mindset too, the justification behind this partition and the continued partitions of Ottomans over time, is that if we don't do it now, we'll just have a big fight over it, right? How do I not know the VMRO? Is it the IRO or... Yeah, okay. I know them by the IMRO. I don't know what the V stands for. I know what the IMRO is. I was confused because I thought maybe it was something separate. After disastrous losses, the Sultan would just abdicate, or Sultan was a real losing real just don't yeah. Okay, so our current problem is the Ottomans would hold on to this territory longer, but then lose it. The Russians and the Ottomans are probably fighting during World War One, which means that all of the Balkan nations that are going against the Ottomans are going to be problems, and that the Germans would need to fight. But if that's the case, the Germans would be way too overstated that they'd lose. So we need to find a way to make the Balkans not be a direct problem that the Austrians need to deal with. But maybe it would just be that they just win anyway. I don't know. the vehicular manslaughter and VMRO, yeah. Multicultural regional nationalism, yes. I haven't really looked into those other mods, Fulpas. Hi, Max. Just got into the stream. What scenario are you guys talking about right now? So, really big Germany. So big it's disgusting. It's the grossest Germany. It's led by Austrians. This is what the borders would look like. But then they have a big civil war, which breaks off into 3 different regions. These 3 regions are the northeast, the southeast, and the west. The West is communists versus national liberals / like aristocrats that are seeking to join either Elizabeth Marie, who's actually a reformer socialist, so it's likely that aristocrats will go with Karl. Karl's over here. Charles is over here. He's trying to take over all the Austrian lands, but then he's fighting communists over here in Hungary. The vice royalty here, Marie, they'd probably be a fan, but then there'd be communist revolutions here. But there'd be nationalist Polish here fighting the Prussians, in coalition with a bunch of other nationalities, including the Lithuanians, Latvians, and Estonians. National Socialists would also be here, so National Liberals and National Socialists could form their own government if they managed to get together. Regardless, there would be a huge civil war that includes every bordering region that isn't just Germany itself, causing a Hearts of Iron 4 mod that's worth playing. But in order for this to actually make any sense, we need to establish the lore, and that's what I do. I'm the lore dad, and I figure that stuff out. Yeah, Inferno. That just kind of makes sense, yeah. Guida Jr., part of Austria, is because the legal authority of the German Confederation is consolidated over time, and they're given a lot of territorial concessions. There's a 1 next to your name because you've been chatting in the chat, and you're like the #1 chatter currently. France would be communist, and they would take over the Rhinish territories, and after they take over the Rhinish territories, they would probably try to prop up a German republic. They could probably join all these wars that the communists are involved in the eastern territories in attempts to completely overthrow the system and create a communist utopia that spans from Paris to like Minsk. But now we're in a situation where we need the Germans to win, but the Ottomans have these borders, and the Serbians and Romanians, and maybe not the Bulgarians, definitely not the Bulgarians actually, would be wanting to take over this territory. So I think that Greece invading Turkey. So hold on. I have an idea for a timeline here. Look at this. We're getting really involved here. Pulling out pictures of people and making big notes on the page. Like, this is a really big lower grade mapping you have today. So one, the Ottomans still have their 1900 borders. Two, the Ottomans get involved in World War One after Balkan territories revolt after Russian aid. Three, the Germans, the Austrians, German Confederation, work with the Ottomans to defeat the Serbians and Romanians. Bulgaria joins the Ottomans and Austrians against the Romanians and Serbians. Greece remains temporarily neutral due to British alignment and Britain's alliance with Ottomans. Ottomans face a Russia-style collapse, a la Lenin showing up and effing things up. Balkan territories collapse. Austria sees it as a sinking ship. Separate pieces out with the Serbians and Romanians for concessions. Bulgaria gets big, but not too big, because Greece goes in on Ottomans for Aegean/Megali idea. Ataturk or some other white movement general takes over the empire and puts down the communists. So it's like a white Russian victory, but in the Ottoman Empire. Britain cuts off relations and annexes Egypt. Varying levels of collapse in Middle Eastern territories. Ottomans, men/Turks go full mutilated victory /revanchism. 14, fascist Ottomans. There we go. We figured it out. Any thoughts, ideas, suggestions about this big blurb here? This is fun, man. It's been a while since I've been able to do something like this. And then when you like figure out a puzzle like this and then it actually makes sense, it's like gorgeous. If there's any weird Circassia stuff, that's just it's a weird border overlap here. By 1855? Oh, okay. Well, I'll just get rid of that then. Okay, thanks. I'll see if I can take a look at it soon. So there we go. We got Bulgaria here. And yeah, so that's how we get a fascist Ottomans. But now we know that they aren't going to have these territories. But now the question is, what territories do they have and why? So Serbia would have likely been able to take all their lands, and even if the Austrians beat the Serbians, they wouldn't be able to deny Serbia all that land. They wouldn't dare try to impose authority there. They would probably prop up Bosnia as a counterbalance to the Serbians. Montenegro could be an interesting thing to prop up as well. But then when the Austrians have their civil war, Serbia goes in on these people to unify that, and then depending on how this goes, they fight for Yugoslavia. Bulgaria could even be guaranteeing the independence of Bosnia. What's the Midnet Enos line? Hold on. We got a guy who knows all of his Balkan history here. Oh yeah, that line. Wow, yeah. That definitely makes sense if they really got that as a problem. Hold on. I love coffee. We love coffee here. Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen Men to Wolves really, so I don't have a comment. But I have heard that it's interesting, so I'll try to check it out sometime soon. Just haven't had no time to do it. Cool. Yeah. Good luck, Britt. Yeah. So I don't know if I can find exactly what this line would be here, but I'll put it in the notes, and I'll refine it down later. But it seems to me that it's something along these lines. I get it. Lines. These lines. There. So it's kind of like that, and then the Ottomans hate that. Well, one journey for propaganda. Yeah, so, and then it could be that the Greeks managed to go in here, but then the Bulgarians take them out as per Austrian recommendations. So you have a big Bulgaria, and then they even have this, yeah, and then the Greeks, I don't know what flavor of radicalism they could be, but they would fight the Bulgarians, kind of like my initial idea for Caesar Reich. In fact, let's find this out. I think that the Romanians would be severely punished, which would include Bulgaria taking out their sea access completely. So we'll have just like Kaiser Reich, we'll have a big Balkan war in the early phases of gameplay. There we go. And there we go. And then this causes Romania to be pissed off. Romania, Serbia versus Bosnia, Bulgaria. It's the Belgrade Pact versus the other thing, but including Bosnia. Salonika? Really? Yeah, maybe this goes, but I'm not sure. But this is the Balkan situation. So now we know that we have a Serbia here that makes some sort of sense. So Serbia's here, Bosnia is here. Montenegro too, because why not? Bosnia. And then somebody made a joke about like a Bosnian-led Yugoslavia. This is the opportunity. If Bosnia beats Serbia and Montenegro or something, and they decide to go off their own way instead of being like the Bulgarian order, Bosnia and Yugoslavia takes over Croatia, and yeah. There you go. We could have an Islamic Yugoslavia. That seems like pretty fun. And then Romania is probably just Iron Guard. Iron Guard, Romania. They take this. They want that. They work together against this. Don't know what Russia's doing still. We'll talk about that later maybe. And then this is like a weird radicalization here. I'm not sure. But that's the Balkans for you though. Austria formed Germany, but they formed Germany in a weirder way than most people think. I have it that the Austrians and the French beat the Prussians. The French get the Rhine. The Austrians don't take Silesia, so Prussia stays in the German Confederation. The German Confederation lasts to World War I, where the French, the Russians are fighting the Germans. The British get involved and defend Austria. Ottomans get involved, but they get thrown under the bus so that everyone else gets their way. After the German Confederation beats the French, the Prussians take a lot of territory, including the former Polish partition and all these Balkan territories, so that they stay loyal, meaning that Germany legally looks like this, without these borders. That's how big it looks. But obviously having a big Germany like that would not work. Okay, Dark Lord, Jesus Christ, please don't spam. 5 minutes. Jesus. I need mods. Man. It's like, please add Pakistan. Yeah, you know, maybe I will, because let me just go to the Discord. So I have an entire folder called The Lore Grave, and I'm going to their teasers. I'm going to find their Indian teaser, because somebody said it's interesting, but if we have the British winning World War I, why would Italy collapse? I mean, why would India collapse, right? So we probably aren't going to have a Pakistan for that reason. So this is like, it has like poor colors because they're like trying to highlight one thing, but this, excuse me. This is the Sikh Empire that's getting the teaser here. But let's pull up the reference. Here's the Sikhs. Oh my god. No, that's not the right one. Jesus. So this is what they had India looking like. Maratha, Hyderabad Confederation, Tamil Republic, Gujarati, Republic of Bengal, New Mughal Empire. I don't think that's really going to happen. Just because, Crack, I don't even know you. I'd probably trust, like, Inferno to be a mod. Congratulations. Inferno, you're a mod. And I would trust Mango to be a mod. Congratulations, Comrade Mango. Term, if I saw him around here, I would also put him as a mod. Anyway, yeah, so this is what India is looking like. I don't think India would actually look anything like this because the British won the World War. Why would they lose India? So India is British. And when it comes to India being having a Pakistan, it's like, yeah, but as a viceroyalty and later into the game, just like it was intentionally the case, right? So hold on, I'm just gonna check something, just triple check something, because I need to make sure my kids are good. Just give me a minute. Yeah, I got a AI transcript and I had to just make sure it was actually accurate. So anyway, hold on. Oh wow. Wow. But now I turned back and now moderators are all over the place. Alternate history scenario where every person in human history is here long. I don't know. Soon. Yeah, the Mughals wouldn't be revived like that. Those are weird borders. Yeah, it's Beast in Normandy. Hey, Paulino. Yeah, maybe. But if you join the Discord, yeah, I would say so. Oh, no, I'm not making a members only live stream all of a sudden. That's crazy. Paulina, okay, stop begging for mod. I've seen you in the Discord. I've seen you on like every live stream, and I appreciate your contributions to the channel. But I don't know you too personally yet. So if you join Discord and then let me know which Discord account you are, I'll see if I can interact with you a little more and understand who you are as a person before I give you ability to overwatch my chat. So I really appreciate your continued support of the channel over these last years, Polina. I really respect it. But we are going to move on now back to the main event here. So India is going to be British. We don't need to worry about that. In fact, let's just put that down right away. Let's get a map of 1936. Let's select all the British territories and give it to Britain. Let's get that done. Done. Why did I put evil Britain? Evil Britain. Specifically evil Britain. In this case also, we'll just take evil Britain and then highlight them. But also get rid of British Ottoman Egypt. There. Wait, that doesn't make sense. There. There's this thing I really like to add in my alternate histories where it's the British Egyptian Empire, where the British had the idea of administering all of the Middle East like they did the Raj by making a like caliphate in Egypt. I don't think they'll do that this time. I think it's a good like one-off idea, maybe. I think it's a good Führerreich thing. I don't know if they're gonna add that or not. I'm not gonna add it here. I think that while the Turkish would have a big civil war, the evil Britain. Yeah, sorry. I think that the idea was to make them revanchist at the beginning, but no, I think they'll be like wholesome, or at least our timeline. Yeah. What else is there to figure out? Any other ideas? Oh yeah, let's talk about Russia. Does anybody have any ideas for Russia? Because usually they're the communists, right? But then if you have them be like some form of it's some form of nationalism, they would have justification to go in on the nation of Ukraine, and Belarus, and the Baltic, and all that. Or they could actually, hold on, here's a crazy idea. What if Russia is actually just democratic, period? Yeah, India's civil war, maybe. That could actually be a thing. I would consider that. It's a lot more reasonable than just having Pakistan at the beginning. So that's a good. I'll consider that. Pan-Slavism. Okay, what's your idea, Udin? I want to hear all ideas for Russia. Will this stream ever be saved? You mean like as a VOD? Yeah, you'll be able to see it on the channel. Heavily Balkanized Russia, maybe. Going into China, like Russia going into China, perhaps. But I don't know what China would happen. I think that the only thing we really need to figure out is Russia, because I think that for the sake of a lore grade video, just having Europe's gameplay and the lore behind it planned out makes sense for our first video. I don't want to make me going into an entire scenario a habit. That Krasnodar thing was like a lot of effort for not a lot of footage. So I'll try to keep it like pretty straightforward here, right? Tsarist warlord state? Maybe. Republic led by the SRs? Oh, like a Soviet Union, but with a lot more bourgeois democratic elements, like a Menshevik one. Yeah, maybe actually that could be fun. It could even be a Elizabeth Marie could ally with Russia, but then like Elizabeth Marie would probably want Ukraine and Belarus to be independent, and Russia, even if it's democratic and like federal, they would want to annex these countries, and that wouldn't be what Marie would want. Charles would probably be okay with giving up these territories in order to keep Prussia in line, reorganize Poland so that it's more secure, and beat up the French. So it could make sense that if Charles is going to be the person collaborating with Russia, then Russia should be a nationalist sort of thing. You should give Romania Moldova. But if the Austrians have a Ukrainian satellite state and they beat the Romanians, they shouldn't have that. They'd want to liberate all fellow Slavs into a Slavic federation. I think that makes sense. In fact, it could be a Poland thing. So it could be that the nationalists in Poland are like, let's work together, Russia. Okay, let's go in together and figure all this out together. And it'd be some like milquetoast liberalism that everyone is wholesome 100. Evil Russia? No, I think we could have actually a wholesome Russia. We keep making Russia evil, us in the West, because it's really easy to, given everything. But then, what if they're actually wholesome? If France is communist or socialist, I don't think that Russia should be an SR. But there could be some form of like democracy like that. Even I'm a mod or I'm unsubbed. Choose wisely. Lore blank. Paulina, if you have a Discord and you join the Discord, we can talk more there. I want to know you more before I give you mod powers. I've had a lot of people who've been subscribed to me for many years, and if I gave them all moderator powers, things could happen. Like the first time I ever gave a mod, right? So I'm really apprehensive about continuing to give it. So if you add me on Discord, then we can talk more. But as of right now, I won't be making you a mod. Wholesome Russia is definitely a breath of fresh air. I agree. But they would still do things like probably annex this territory here because they're Russians. They probably would like not annex the Balkans, but they could probably like make a federative republic here. I'm not too sure. That's okay. Random, but you don't have to. Bolgrad thing for no reason. What do you mean Bolgrad? This guy's coming in, he's dropping the biggest lore drops of history of all time, and I'm like barely keeping up. So maybe even this they take because they're Russians. Maybe they take this because they're Russians. But then this would be a Federal Republic of Belarus, Federal Republic of Ukraine. This separatist is Russia aligned. All these separatists could be Russia aligned, right? And then is this also a no, please no. I don't but I also don't want to listen to the same thing over and over again either. Maybe this will work. It's the same sort of thing, but it's actually the games itself. I believe you, Paulina, but I won't be discussing this further at the moment. Add me on Discord if you want to talk more. What do you got here? Maybe you take a red flood path and make Russia go into warlord. The warlord Russia is like very rare and it barely works. And if we made Russia warlords, then there's no threat to the east, right? If there's no threat to the east, then nothing would be happening here. Nothing ever happens, PNG. So we want them to be Republican. Russia playing America to the national separatist. The Americans and Russians could be allies, especially if Russia's democratic. You could do the exact Caesar-Reich dynamic that I was proposing, where the USA and the Russians are allies against Japan. And then they could have a separatist republic here that Russia needs to deal with, which is why they aren't getting involved in Germany exactly. Or maybe it's just they take care of Germany, or at least the eastern part, negotiate with a ruler here, then go in over this way, just so that they have their sphere of influence here, or like buffer states, so that they can actually take care of the east, and like the other guy said, going into China, right? Within timeline, the Germans never signed Brest-Litovsk, instead marched to Moscow. West Russia would then be a German puppet revolt after the... I think that might be a little too in favor of Germany, especially if they're separate states that don't have a coalesced chain of command. Like, maybe something like that could happen in World War One, but even that was a stretch, right? So I think that they wouldn't be able to go too far. In fact, this Ukrainian and Belarusian state, they might not even be occupied satellite states, but just independent states that they're trying to negotiate with. In fact, Ukraine could probably even go in on Austria if they wanted to, but we probably won't do that. We'll have them be a monarchy of the Hapsburgs. They'll have their own civil war or something, maybe even communists. Then the Russians come in to take care of them. There's a lot of different things we can do here, and making the idea that this entire region collapses leads to France coming in. And if we had Russia be warlords, then we would lose that dynamic in the east. Would Qing be around? I don't think so. I think that the historical trajectory of China is just collapsing Qing all the time. I do want to see if there's a timeline where the Qing stay around, but I think Kaiserreich's idea of having the Qing stay around because Germany plays world police is kind of ridiculous. But it's okay because it sets up a really interesting scenario in China. So Balkanization too risky. Yeah. United and either under a Socialist Revolutionary Republic. SR. Do you mean like the Social Democrats, not the communists? Because that could work. Or it's like the cadets, just some liberal Russia. Okay, we're solid on our Russia depiction now. So let's figure this out. This is kind of a bad idea to just bring in this like far right Russia to be our like Russia working thing here, but what is going on here? There's a big little error here, but hey, let's do it. So this is not Samenkov, this is wholesome Russia. Wholesome Russia gets a special color. Russia is, if it's wholesome, is this color and this color. We'll just quickly do this. But wholesome Russia doesn't have these territories, nor should they. Hold on, let's go with the notes. Liberal could work to, yeah, I think we should just do liberal Russia. Black Hundreds be tolerated? Probably not. The Russia would probably be like strictly Republican, no monarchy allowed. Which could be a interesting thing, especially for the Prussians to do, because in true ARTR fashion, we could have the Hohenzollerns claiming the Russian Tsardom. It would be fun. But probably shouldn't be copying everything that ARTR is doing. Let's get rid of the stroke so that we can just fill this in. Wait. Okay. There's a new game mode in RuneScape that I've been playing with my wife, and it's been fun. Haven't been able to play it much, and even when I did start to play it, I was like falling asleep, so could have been a little better, but hey, it was still fun. Lavarov, I don't know who Lavarov is. Cesars are probably the most popular party. Yeah, well, I don't know, I just like liberals. My own personal ideological bias there. Monarchism be popular under conservative parties. Yeah, like it wouldn't be, maybe it wouldn't be banned, but the dominant powers would be, maybe it wouldn't be banned, but the dominant powers would not be monarchists. Is this actually the Ukrainian borders? I guess it's the eastern, like this is what the Germans wanted to impose, so this is why the borders look different than our history. We'll just deal with it. We'll just let it be gross for now. Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan might not be Russian. The fascist Turks would be a direct enemy of liberal Russia. This is very interesting to consider. So there's an entire Eastern dynamic here. Could have a like axis between Japan and the Ottomans, which is crazy because the Ottomans would have the oil, but they would need to like work through the Indian Ocean to ship it, so it wouldn't be too beneficial. It could be that the Ottomans like stay neutral and just keep building themselves up so the British can't sink the Japanese trade, but maybe Britain and Japan have a detente of some sort in this timeline. There's a lot to consider, maybe out of the scope of this video, but we want a liberal Russia, and the exact scope of how big this Russia is and why is to be determined. Who'd be the competitor to the throne? Oh, sorry, what's going on? Monarchist party, like the cadets in charge, they can't restore the monarchy because of disagreements with the monarch. But who would be the monarch that they try to put in? Russia supporting Italian unification? Yeah. Nicholas, maybe. Or yeah, because they probably wouldn't have gotten shot, right? Because there would potentially not be that many. So let's review. Now that we know what we want Russia to be, and we know the general idea for the Ottomans, and I will map out the Balkans either now or later. But let's talk about what this core is. The entire point of this timeline, this potential Hearts of Iron 4 mod, is that there's a big German civil war that everything else revolves around. So how can we make this be the best that it can be? So we know that we want Charles and Maria to be the people fighting for the Hapsburg core territories. There'll be a communist like risorgimento here that will involve the Papal States, the Sicilians, and all these people, and they'll be fighting all over the peninsula. The Austrians will resist here, but Charles could even be, well, no. Charles would want potential Habsburg dominion over all this stuff, but the communists would probably be fighting all this stuff. They wouldn't be able to intervene. Maria and Charles both, if they win, would want to neutralize Italy, but they might not be able to because then they would join the French faction, which then leads to the second phase of the Civil War, which is likely going to be the French communists versus the Germans. So it's just a matter of how far do the communists go before another world war happens, or just like a regional European war between the German states, regardless of who they are, and the communists. Depending on how far these national claimants go, Maria, Charles, the National Liberals, National Socialists go, they'll either be like in a weird coalition, or they'll be still fighting each other, or they'll be directly dominant. Alexei should be czar, a weak czar, so he doesn't have a say. And yeah, he's sickly. Maybe he's even like a regent, and that would mean that the democratic process has time to solidify. Or if the Papal States are religious socialist, I don't know. I was thinking that the Papal States would be supporting Charles's claim to the throne because they would continue to allow the Papal States to exist and to have a Catholic primacy. I was even thinking of if Charles gets in power, like people associate him with like the wholesome Chungus 100 Danubian Federation. I'm thinking he'd be like an integralist and be wanting to make AEIOU real. Like everything's better when you're under a Habsburg, and then basically like conquer the world and make it all viceroyalties of his design, right? And then even in that way, like the dominance that Germany has had over Hungary forever, they may not have been Germanizing the area with intent to rid the Hungarian tongue out of the region, but the integration that Hungary has had into the German Confederation and the like migration of Germans to like take jobs in Hungary could mean that Hungary is like a very core integrated part of Germany, period. More nations, this could be national liberals, national socialists to being like, well, it's just ours. Because like Hitler literally said in our timeline, like, Hungary is ours. Like, period. So there you go, right? It's just an extension of that given the point of divergence. So national liberals or national socialists could see Poland, Hungary, the Baltics is all Reich Commissariat style colonies, which is terrible, but that's an outcome that would actually reasonably happen. Then communist Germans would just be like second fiddle to whatever French faction. The French have a really good position to like take over all of Germany here. Britain, I don't think should even be involved. I think this should be a sort of British-German diplomatic failure. It could even be that Britain keeps their alliance with Japan, which is then leads to a Britain and Japan versus USA and Russia war that the communists in France or the Germans, whoever ends up ruling them, gets involved on either side of the conflict by the end. You're good. I mean, I feel sick. I'm still a little sick. Going through some stuff also in real life, but yeah, I'm tired, man. I'm a father of 2 kids, running a channel, sick, dealing with a lot of personal stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Russia wouldn't have a respectable navy bases like Japan, but then the USA would. So then it's like Japan and the British navies versus the USA, which could be pretty interesting. And if we do, I don't know if it is ever justified with the point of divergence, but if for some reason the Americans have British Columbia, this timeline just Columbia, then there would be a good reason for the Americans to go to war with the British, potentially annexing Canada. I'm allowed to take a break. I mean, I took a break for 2 weeks, basically. So, not even basically. The last time I opened up Premiere was 15 days ago, and I recorded an episode just yesterday. So it'll be a little bit of a nasally thing like you're hearing now, but... Yeah, I'm stressed, but I gotta keep going. Got a family to feed. I'm actually fine financially. Just don't worry about that, but it would be helpful if this also was doing well. But by the way, even you guys like commenting on the participating in the live chat, being here is support enough. So thank you. If you want to do some more support, you can consider a membership. I'm also considering opening a Patreon with more specific tiers and stuff like that. So, but it's all different projects for different days. Germany have colonies, so that's the thing. No colonies for Germany? I don't know. You know what could be interesting is Hungarian Somalia. What are you talking about, Lord Ed? Are you going crazy? Hungarian Somalia? Are you daft? There's an idea for a Hungarian Somalia. Hold on. I swear to God I read it somewhere. The Hungarian who wanted to colonize Somalia. Probably with the help of Budapest. Suleiman Karoli Ingar arrived in Budapest in 1898 and introduced himself as the Viceroy of Somalia and started to recruit military offers for his future Somali army. Many believed him. Of course, few believed him. Few even knew where Somalia was on the map. So, Hungarian Somalia, Livonian Ivory Coast. That'd be like Prussian though, because there's no Livonia. Like, I wouldn't. It's not too bad, but there's just not much precedent for it. Prussia would basically get no colony. Maybe they get Sudwest Africa, but we could do the funny thing and make Portugal get the pink map. I don't know if that really makes sense. Partitioned Australia. I don't know about that. Hi, fish. We're going esoteric. Yeah. Let's look at what they did. So they had these colonies for Germany, but that's because they beat the British. So it would be like they get this, maybe they get this, not that actually, not that. This, and that's it. Definitely not that. Absolutely not that. Russian Djibouti. Yes, Russian Djibouti. Let me put that down. Russian Djibouti. I always like Russian Djibouti. We like Russian Djibouti here. It'll be interesting though because Russia would have been defeated, and if the Austrians had Somalia, then it's likely that Russian Djibouti does not exist. I'm going to make a separate folder for Africa stuff. German Ceylon. Okay, are we just like getting a European name and then a name of a region of the world and just putting it together randomly? I don't know, man. It's what would be interesting is seeing the French colonial empire be destroyed. The Ottomans could have potentially tried claiming Algeria, but then Algeria becomes its own independent. I'm gonna do number 2. Don't do anything interesting while I'm gone. Okay, you heard it here first, guys. We can't be interesting when he's doing a number 2. So Algeria could have been like promised to the Ottomans, but then they never got it, so they're pissed off. It could be even something that they try to take, depending on how big we have the Ottomans end up being. We'll just have Algeria exist so that we know what to do with it. That border with Libya sucks. I'm gonna have to just deal with it. Spain. What do they do with Spain? I like what we have so far, but let's start trying to integrate what they had. Look here. So you have Strasser and Rom, right? So they are both associated with you know what, but they have their own ideas, right? Machlik. Two Sicilies having a large colonial empire makes sense, but maybe not Libya. It would make sense if they took Libya because of their proximity and the historical claims, right? Pan-Arab Algeria, potentially, honestly. Irish, okay. Polish Madagascar, did that one Pole being crowned a king there. I think that it's one of the coolest things in history that actually happened, right? But probably not. France should at least keep Algeria, maybe. In fact, the Pan-Arabic Algeria could be... but this is another idea that we're taking from AOTR, where the French have like a puppet overlordship of Algeria. Well, so this is a path that the national syndicalists can take. Let's do an inner stroke. No, it's an inner glow that I do for inner glow. Is it an inner glow that I do? What is going on? It's not inner shadow. So just do a stroke. Inside, 2 pixels with the French color. So this could be like a French, like making a pan-Arabic socialist state here. If the Ottomans have stuff here, then they have to figure it out. The Ottomans could then be a weird ally of the Germans against the French. they have a big Mediterranean empire. They're not very wholesome 100. Could be another reason why the British and Germans aren't really that friendly anymore. Thank you for that comment, Mango. I'll check that out right now. Are all Austrian holdings. North Borneo, Celebon. This is the Austrian Netherlands, yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. I didn't know about this. In Russia and Lux Germania, they could claim all the blue land as a Slavic Federation with World War II. Yeah. So, Comrade Mango mentioned that this wholesome Russia could even be like Polish royalty or whatever. So then taking like all this land, including like all that, like that could be interesting, really interesting. All of the Morocco and the Cameroon coast under Spain. Well, would Spain even really gain that much from this divergence? They'd probably still suffer a lot of defeats. I don't see them gaining any more territory, actually. If anything, the Americans dominate them more, right? So I'm not too sure here. France, Algeria, France supported Arab Algeria. Yeah, we'll do that. France supported pan-Arab Algeria. So that there's a big fight between them and the Ottomans later. Okay. And then Greece will be whatever ideology best suits the dynamics. But if we're gonna take a look at, put away these notes for now, and we look at the bigger picture here, including a USA. I'll keep the notes, just not the. Where did the folder go? This one. So, to summarize what we have determined in our stream today, we're going to have the dynamics of the World War. We've already solidified that, but when it comes to World War II, we want a USA that is big and wants to stay isolated, but they won't for long. Spain having to fight Morocco, yeah, maybe that could be fun. But then again, wouldn't the Algerians just invade Morocco? Okay, see you later, Comrade Mango. Thanks for tuning in and being a mod. And then the British are, well, we can quickly just do the British stuff right now, at least in Australia. So we can have that as a visual reference. The USA is here. They are anti-Britain. The British control either Canada or not British Columbia, and then the USA also get this. So the British are upset with them. They're gonna have a war, right? They're gonna fight. Maybe one of the reasons why the British don't want to go well with the USA is because they are allies with Japan. And the reason why they're allies with Japan is because the Japanese would have stuff like this to be a counterbalance to Russia, which Britain doesn't like Russia, even if they are a federation. So Japan and Britain are allies. Japan would want to go in on China, so China would be allies with the USA. And the Russians would also support the Chinese in some way, and then take out Japan. This idea of the British being friends with Japan means that Japan could get oil through the Indian Ocean, which means that the Ottomans could be good allies to Japan, but then they have a problem over Egypt. So that's an interesting conflict there. The Ottomans also would be against Russia in some form. We don't know what's going to be happening here. It's likely going to be British dominated. It's more likely that a lot of people just go in against Britain here. France would also be anti-Britain because it's a big empire that they need to get rid of. Spain could be a civil war, but then again, we're not really starved for civil wars when we have like 3 different ones happening in Germany alone. The Bulgarians are allies of the quote-unquote Vienna Accords, not Serbia, not Romania, not Greece, not the Ottomans. The Balkan War here solidifies whatever happens next for Germany in their civil war. Ottomans are consolidating and trying to like reclaim a large empire through big invasions and things like that. The French are priority one, taking out Germany, priority two, spreading it elsewhere to either Russia or Britain. Did the USA join forces with the French during World War One? No. The French would be Napoleon III, and the Americans would not be a fan of that. Nor would they be fans of the Germans necessarily. So they probably would have stayed neutral out of World War One. Kind of a cop-out, but it's a good point. If the USA were involved with the French, they could have been fighting the British. I think that was even why I initially was like, Britain is evil, because Britain lost Canada maybe or something. And if the British fought the USA and they have Canada or they don't have Canada anymore, that's a perfect reason for the British to be still allies with Japan. If Britain's allies with Japan, then they have an actual means of being able to reclaim their lands. So it makes sense that we do something like that. So I'll have to consider that, what USA was doing. But I think that the USA wouldn't really feel any reason to get involved. If anything, they're just really involved in propping up the Russian Republic, and then having the Russian Republic and a lot of trade with them would be good, but then that alone would cause Japan to really support the separatist states in the east, which would then mean that they would fight Russia later. And then China's warlordism allows for another faction to be determined based on the outcome of those civil wars. And then South Africa, in South America, nothing happens there, as usual. I'll look into it, maybe, but I don't see much happening. Can we talk about Iceland? I think it'd be Danish. I don't see why it wouldn't be Danish. They have Scandinavia being formed from all those Scandinavian countries there, but I don't see that happening. Doesn't make sense to me. Okay, anybody else have any ideas? Because I'm starting to reach my yapping limit. If the USA joined the French, we get supervillain Britain. Yeah, it could even be why Britain is anti-Austrian, because the Austrians got away with it, right? And that could also be if the British don't even have hold over Egypt, then it could be like Egypt is just a regular state. The Ottomans invade that regular state using their claims. They sign a deal with the British to give the British control over the Suez again, and then figure that out. For Scandinavia, I think that it'll just be neutral and be the same borders as our history. Maybe the fact that Russian Republic is in power instead of a Soviet Republic in Finland changes Finnish history a bit, but I don't see it really being that different. Austrian Madagascar, maybe. It could be interesting. Alentov, probably nothing happens. Yeah, you know. Let's just as an idea for now. Let's make an Austrian Madagascar. Since you mentioned Denmark, Finland is Russian. You mean like because the white movement wins, Finland is still Russian? Maybe. A more Baltic Germany could have ambitions on Gotland and Åland for prestige. Yeah, probably. Would Finland still be independent or be absorbed back into Sweden? I don't know. It might make sense for there to be something interesting happening with Sweden, but I'm not too certain. Scandinavia being fully united would be interesting, but I don't know why. Well, I mean, because it is interesting. But what I'm wondering is like, what sort of benefit would that give to the scenario if they were united? Like, would the Danish try to reclaim the German territories? Probably not. They'd just be neutral, right? So then at that point, like, why make extra work for yourself trying to justify an alternate Scandinavia when it won't be doing anything anyway, right? Like, there's a lot of timelines that provide interesting scenarios for Scandinavia, and the core of this project did have a Scandinavia being united, but I don't really see how that really benefits the scenario. Let's see if I can find it. This is China. We don't want to see China here. So, ready to break itself apart. So it's a civil war that's coming. But then it's like, what's the point of that? I don't know. Let's see. What else is there that we can keep hearing? Spanish monarchy in exile. I don't know. Yeah, I think I'm at my limit here, guys. I need to lie down, maybe. I am not doing too hot. Maybe because the French get more involved in the European politics of the Rhine Viceroy, they might never invade Mexico, thus not antagonizing the Americans. That's a good point. But at the same time, the USA Civil War was such a big opportunity for the Europeans to try to prevent their rise, so maybe they'd still try anyway. Germany seek to establish any colonies before unification. Maybe some Austrian ones, maybe a Prussian one or two, but maybe not a lot. And maybe the reason why they couldn't do colonies is because of how disunified they were, which could be a reason why people felt like they needed to unify the country, which would mean that at World War I they get colonies, but not beforehand. So then the colonies that they would have been somebody else's. So it could likely be that France's colonies became Germanic colonies in some form or another. And it would be like a separate tag, and then as soon as the German Civil War starts, the overlordship of Germany or the Austrian crown lands to them is broken, and if they don't get help from the mainland soon enough, then there's revolts, probably communist ones, that France supports, and it's like a different version of Kaiserreich, but with a lot more German infighting collapse. Could be interesting. What wouldn't be possible for Finland won't join? Is there tied with Russia? Okay, so because the monarchy is what led Finland to be bound to Russia, then it doesn't make sense. That makes sense. Yeah. Okay, any other ideas before I wrap up today? I think, yeah, I'm good. I need to lie down or something. Alright, well, I'm looking forward to working on this. I actually have another video in mind, so let me explain something. So, I was hoping to get this stream started, like, beginning of the month. And then after working on that for a bit, I would have had the video out by last week Friday. Then last week Friday, I would have been able to work on Crossland Part 3, but also another video idea I had that I would want to have out before EU5 comes out. So I have an idea for a medieval scenario that I'll tease it here, actually. Why not? Feeling spicy. If you guys have seen the Wizards and Warriors videos about a Mongolian invasion of Europe, you may like this idea. Hi, Paulina. Look, a little teaser for a future live stream and video potentially. I don't know if I can really manage this. Medieval European history is really hard to handle, but this is an idea where I'm making a premise for an EU5 mod where the point of divergence is that the Europeans the Mongols managed to invade Europe, right? And then we have things that happen because of that. Yeah, so we'll be doing this stream soon. But yeah, maybe Monday, maybe even on the weekend. We'll see. But yeah, I'm wrapping up for the day. I'll let you guys see this map, and I'll get rid of these notes so you can look at the other notes. Where is it? There. So the big civil war here. Yeah, I'll rest now. And if you guys are interested, I actually have a scenario coming along in a EU4 campaign. I'm doing my second channel. It'll be like, I don't know how many hours from now, but it'll be Russia colonizing Siberia and then trying to break out a big European Union led by Austrian Hapsburg. So it's like a little interesting parallel to this stream. So if you like that, you can check out my second channel, No Lore, and I'll make an announcement for that. But anyway, thank you everyone for watching and for your suggestions and stuff. It's been nice brainstorming a project again. It's been a while since I've been able to be creative like this. I'm really satisfied with our idea with the Ottomans here, and the delving into the potential of a Britain being antagonistic towards the USA through conquest and stuff. The next stream, I don't know about the next mapping stream, would be sometime next week, but if I have the energy, I'll be streaming a game of EU4 on my second channel on my Twitch channel tonight in like 9 hours or something. Yeah, I'll go rest for a bit. Anyway, thank you all. Oh, let's end it with the timing of this epic song.